All right, guys, we're in Greg's beautiful Volante. Same year as mine, so it still has the ZF 6-speed transmission. One of the things I want to make sure I point out on this kind of 4-year ownership review is the crystal key never really gets old. I absolutely love the sense of occasion that the emotional control unit, which is what this is, you have to insert in the car. You have to kind of line up the logo here so that it lines up with the crystal here in the middle. Every time you do this, little red button pops up. This center stack rises, the Bang & Olufsen system rises, you get the great sounding exhaust startup. It just never really gets old. I will tell you, 4 years later, I still love inserting the key, and I really wish they'd bring that back. First time I've heard in person. I mean, listen to that. That's unbelievable. Otherwise, the characteristics pretty similar to mine. It's cracking me up because that's not even halfway up the rev band, and it sounds like that. It's unreal. That's one of the loudest cars I've ever heard. Wow. This is definitely a car now that all of the Karens in the world are going to know you're having a lot of fun. Let me tell you, that is very loud. It's dramatically louder than mine. I will tell you, it's a very high-pitched sound, whereas mine's got a lot more low-end Harley-Davidson throatiness to it. That sounds quite loud, so it definitely makes a big difference. I would actually take or leave it. I think that if you like the classic nature of the Vanquish and that it's more adult, probably stick with the stock exhaust, or even just like I did, a muffler delete. But if you love that like F1 V12 screaming sound, then you got to get that. I mean, mine is not that, right? Guys, welcome back to Driven Productions. My name is Adam. Thanks for stopping by and clicking the thumbnail. Now, if you click this particular thumbnail, you're probably interested in understanding more about Aston Martin Vanquish ownership specifically. Now, I have had my Aston Martin Vanquish for 4 years. I have put over 6,500 miles on the car, and I have had no issues with the car. It is still, in my humble opinion, the most underrated car on the market today, period. You can pick up one of these. I'm talking a 10,000 mile white car, which is like, I think, one of the best colors for this car, for $107,000 right now. There's a little image. I was looking at 15, 16, 17s. Heck, you can pick up an S for mid to low 200s now, right? We're talking about almost a $400,000 car there with the 8-speed, the performance, etc. Now these two cars, I've got Greg's Volante here, beautiful car. This one has a couple of upgrades that mine doesn't have. So mine's basically a stock car with a muffler delete. It has a bunch of upgrades. It has a tune, it has equal length headers. So this literally sounds like a Zonda car, I'm telling you. It is one of the craziest, loudest, most visceral cars I've ever driven in my entire life. Coming up to our run out spot here, I'm gonna go ahead and give it the beans for you guys so you can check out what this car sounds like at full song. Are you ready? This is 2,000 RPMs. There you go. It still shifts with the ZF 6-speed, right? So it still has that same kind of delay. It's really fun, I gotta be honest. Like, people tell you these cars don't drive that well. It's not true. You just have to learn how to drive them. You gotta run them out a little bit. You gotta have a slight delay when you do shift it. It's not gonna be immediate, right? But in the end of the day, they're fun to drive because you have a big V12, you have 565 horsepower. I've driven quite a few nice cars. I've driven Aventadors with literally $30,000 custom exhaust, and this car actually sounded slightly better. So just a really cool piece of kit this is. The value, like Greg just picked this thing up, he got it for under $110,000. Like, I'm just like mind blown. The condition of the car, the leather, it's not wrinkling here. So we're gonna go through both cars today. I'm gonna give you some consciousness on kind of things to look out for as far as, you know, when you're looking at which car you wanna purchase, what upgrades I highly recommend you look into getting. But guys, go buy one of these. I'm telling you, just from an introduction here, there's such good values. So let's get into it. I'm gonna bring Greg on camera. We're gonna kind of give you our kind of conscious between both specs. Greg, thanks for coming to the HQ, my man. So tell folks about your beautiful 14 Volante here.
Well, this is a 14, like you said. It's got about 17,000 miles on it. And I did a little bit of research whenever I was looking for cars. We were kind of looking at a lot of different ones that were out there. You know, we looked at some entry-level Ferraris out there. My wife was like, hey, you know, kind of might want a California. And so we went and test drove one of those, and it was. And then we went and drove a couple other cars. And when you look at, I want to say bang for the buck when it comes to cars. I think this one fits perfectly. I think it's one of the best looking cars that you can buy today. It's got a V12, non-turbo, naturally aspirated, right? Mm-hmm. So, you know, those are kind of going away whenever you think about where EPA standards and the government is coming in and telling you what you can and can't have. Yep. These are still here.
Now, did you want silver? Was this a color that you had your eyes on? Or was this just like the best one at the time that was on the market, or a right combination deal?
So it's kind of funny. Every car that we have is a gray/silver. Okay. So the Roadsters,
That's
silver.
Cool. Yeah, I love it in silver. It's James Bond 101, baby.
Yeah, well, this is quantum silver, so
yeah,
right after Solace.
And guys, if you're looking to buy a Vanquish, let me point out a few details. And it's hard to see on the silver, to be honest with you, but this is an upgrade. This is an upgrade. This is an upgrade here. Actually, his doesn't have the carbon fiber. You almost can't even tell just based on the light, but that would be an upgrade if he had it. This is an upgrade here, this side skirt. And because it's a Volante, you can't get the carbon roof. Now, carbon options that do come with the car, just so you know, you have the carbon diffuser here. So all of this, and this is paint, but this is carbon fiber here. This is carbon fiber side skirt. And then you have the carbon fiber here. Now, cool parts about the Vanquish, if you're not aware of it, is the entire car is literally carbon fiber, right? Hear that? That's not metal, that's carbon fiber. And so when you open up certain pieces, you see how that whole piece, that is one solid piece of carbon fiber. And it is absolutely beautiful. You see how it has one solid piece. So all of the different things on these cars are carbon. And when you go and pop the hood, like I'll pop mine real quick. I'd pop his, but we just took a test drive and that engine is roasting. So we're gonna try to save my AC today and keep the heat much inside there. But you see here, the whole front is carbon. So again, every body panel is carbon fiber. And it's one of the things to look out for. Now, people always joke with me, it's like, well, it's not really that light. That's true, it's a 3,800 pound car. But with a 565 horsepower naturally aspirated V12. Now, Greg, have you had any problems with your engine? I mean, I know you did the Velocity, so why don't you talk about that and kind of why you upgraded?
Yeah, so to one point, you know, you mentioned the 3,800 pounds. It's because this stuff isn't plastic, right?
Yeah.
Everything that you think might be metal is actually metal in there. Yeah. So that's a pretty big deal. So they lightened up where they could, and they put a lot of quality into the other parts of the car. So
the interior especially, right?
In my opinion, you can't, I mean, the value that you get out of this car is unbelievable. As far as the engine and the things that I did to it, through some research, I had gone in and looked at, you know, usually whenever you look at any car, right, it's where am I going to have to spend some money in maintenance? Where are the potential flaws, and what might I have to take care of whenever I go in and purchase one of these from a maintenance perspective?
Right.
Well, one of the things that pops up on some of the searches, and maybe this may be relevant, this may be not, is the catalytic converters that are right next to the intake manifolds on the engine. Well, sometimes those are potentially problematic, and what I did was essentially went in and went with different headers from Velocity AP. And then from there, I also went with upgraded catalytic converters that are just moved a little bit farther back in the system. Okay. And then I went with a different tune in there. And I think that it gives about 50 horsepower. So this is sitting right about 600, probably about 600 horsepower in here. And then when you do the headers, and being equal length, that's where the volume and the pitch actually changes. So yours is a lot more throaty and deep. Yeah, yeah. Dude, this one sounds great too. I mean, it's just two different.
Yeah.
It's two different tones, two different pitches, but they both sound freaking phenomenal.
I'm glad you got to try it.
Yeah, yeah, dude, this is really cool. But this one is immediately that screaming high pitch V12 F1 kind of sound. So it's
screaming. Yeah, emphasis on screaming.
It's pretty crazy. And so,
but it's cool, guys, because below 4,000 RPMs, it still kind of has that same GT vibe, right? It doesn't let you know that it's had a tune or long, equal length headers, which is good. But yeah, above 4,000, obviously different.
Yeah, it's a lot different. And then the Valvetronic exhaust, so went headers all the way back, just with the complete refresh from Velocity AP. And I think there's a little X-pipe action in the back on the Valvetronic exhaust, which gives it a little bit more high pitch too. So
cool. Yeah,
no, it's great. I love it. No problems at all.
You've had it now, what, a year?
I bought it back in, honestly, it got delivered on my birthday, so November 27th.
Okay.
Got delivered to the house.
So you're coming up on a year.
From Hollywood, yep.
Coming in. No issues? Yeah, I mean, you put what, probably 3,000 miles on it now?
I put about 2,500 miles on it.
Perfect.
And yeah, man, it's been great. I mean, you think about longevity of the motor, it's been around for a long time. You look at carbon ceramic discs on there driving around. Normally, you're never going to have to replace those. Maybe pads, right? But everything else is going to be good on the car. I've updated some gas struts in the doors because, the way that the doors open is a little bit different than.
Yeah. So if you don't know, guys, these doors open up at an angle, and the whole point of that, and they're called wing doors. They're not like the scissor door, right, where like a Lamborghini would be, but you can see. They open up at a pretty good 30-degree angle. And the whole idea is that you don't, damage the bottom of the car here when you're getting out. And if you're, oftentimes there's like a mulch bed or, you're in a parking lot or something. That's actually saved my bacon more often than quite a few times, mind you. And I just think they look cool. When both the doors are open, you can actually see, you want to open up the other one?
Sure. You
can see, guys, how much of an angle they give you. It looks pretty cool. Look at that. Let's have the wind deflector here. This is an upgrade, guys. All of these stitching patterns. Some of these Vanquishes you'll see, which is one solid color. Could be one solid color here and here, or it could be a color contrast between here and here. This is an upgrade, as is these rear seats. Now you can't really use the rear seats, but it's nice to find a car that has that upgrade. I think that was 4,500 bucks. This one also does not have the carbon fiber paddles, whereas mine does, so that's another fun upgrade if you can find it. This does have the 177 steering wheel. It does have the dark jewelry pack. I would highly suggest you get yours with the dark jewelry pack. That's all of this, which is metal, mind you. All of this, get that in the darker color versus the lighter silver color that you'll sometimes see cars in. Outside of that, I love the herringbone carbon fiber. It's personally my favorite versus like a piano black, which just shows all of the fingerprints in the world. This one also does not have the cooled seats. So if you had the cooled seat option, that would be cooled and or heated. It would have 3 and 3 for options on that. Otherwise, this is pretty much a fully loaded car. They charge you for just about everything you want to do. The B&O sound system does come from the factory though, with the Vanquish. But the things that are going to be an upgrade, right? This stitching, the rear seats, the jewelry pack, the herringbone carbon fiber interior, the 177 steering wheel. So those are things that are definitely going to be upgrades on this particular car. Outside of the carbon fiber, like I said earlier, that's an upgrade, that's an upgrade, that's an upgrade. And if you were, this is an upgrade. Now, if you had mine, the coupe, you can also get the roof as carbon fiber, which is another upgrade. But guys, just look at this thing. Is this not sexy or is this not sexy? I mean, there's not a car that has come out since the Vanquish that looks, in my personal opinion, better than this. It just isn't. To me, this is still one of the best designs ever. Henrik Fisker, David Brown, world-class designers, they nailed it. I mean, they absolutely nailed the look of this car. It is aging like a fine wine. I just don't think in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, this car is ever gonna look bad. I don't care how crazy electric cars, whatever the world becomes, these are always gonna be just damn right sexy. So let's go and look at mine just for a second here. So again, the carbon fiber roof, and then just a couple of other things that mine has that are a little different, right? So you've got these carbon fiber shift paddles here. Now again, I've got the two-tone color, so I've got spicy red with obsidian black, but again, I still have the same stitch. You still got the rear seats. I mean, look, I'm a sucker for red interiors, as you know. This also has the Alcantara roof. Some of these cars will have a leather roof. They'll also have additional stitching in the roof. One of the things that when you are shopping for one of these guys, be really mindful of the leather up here, okay? So Greg and I were just talking about this. There's a local dealership in town named Carlock. There's an Aston Martin dealer, and they keep their cars outside. And I will tell you, if you keep your Aston Martin outside, especially with the windows up and it gets hot, all of their dashes will peel up. I mean, it's skin, guys. It's cow skin. And it's Bridge of Weirs. It's high quality stuff. You know, Bridge of Weirs leather comes from Scotland. They do not have any mosquitoes where these cows are, so the leather is absolutely perfect. It's just a shame that, you know, people who leave these cars in the sun, they take them to work, they sit out there for 7-8 hours a day, just baking. Your dash is going to be ruined. So just be really careful. In fact, with my car, I actually keep always on me a set of these. So when I'm in the sun, I just stick them up there, right? And it makes sure that I don't have any issues. Now, also be mindful that you can get an umbrella. Mine actually did not come with one, so I ordered an Aston Martin racing umbrella that is kind of fun and fit the vibe. Everything, again, you talk about weight, this is all wrapped in carpet, nice size trunk. Not necessarily a car you're gonna get a super long vacation in, but you could definitely take a nice weekend trip in one of these things. But overall, guys, I hope that was helpful. So again, I would recommend 177 steering wheel, find a car with that. If you can afford to find a car with all the carbon upgrades, get it. The difference between the coupe and the Volante, honestly, it's really your choice. With this up, you want to go ahead and show the car with the top up real quick?
Yeah, certainly.
And it's cool that you can do it with the door open. Some cars won't let you do that. That's pretty quick. There you go. And it does it fully for you. You have to do absolutely nothing with this car, which is nice. And that's what it looks like with the soft top. Now you can see here, you're gonna have a little bit of wear spot here. As this kind of folds back, it will absolutely go away. It's gonna show some of the hair, you know, just some of the general, you know, pollen and stuff will get stuck to it. So just be mindful of that, guys. It's one of those things that it looks incredible with the top down, not so much with the top up. But again, when you drive this car, you're gonna pick and choose your best days. But I just wanted to share that with you. This car has 17,000 miles, so that's kind of what you can expect. They do not make a hardtop convertible. If they had made a hardtop convertible, then that would have been amazing. Be mindful that carbon ceramics do come standard on this car. And he's got the Pirelli P0. So Greg, one thing I will give you a heads up on is I would recommend when these tires are done to get those Michelins. They really transform the driving experience in this car. When you drive mine, I think you're gonna really like the way it feels. It's just a little bit softer of a tire. Yeah,
those are the ones that came on it, and
they were the ones that came with mine too.
Well, there will be I don't know if you noticed or not, but whoever had this before I did, they were attracted to curbs a little bit.
Yeah, so I did notice that. So I will say mine do not have any curb rash. A couple of these did. It's good to know that Greg or his wife did not cause those.
Yeah, that was not us. There will be a refresh coming. It may be different wheels completely.
I love the look of these wheels though. They're so sexy. They don't look good in person, or they don't look good in pictures. They look great in person though.
I think they look good. Part of my inkling to potentially look at a bigger wheel is just to kind of fill up that wheel well a little bit. And Velocity AP, they offer a lowering spring.
Okay.
However, my driveway would make that problematic.
Yes, and that's one thing I should mention, guys. There is no front lip on these cars. And so I will tell you, if you were to jack my car up, even though I've got PPF on the front of this car, underneath here, I'm gonna go ahead and bend down here for you. Underneath, you can see it does have a little bit of damage, especially on this side. So it's very easy to scrape these cars. Now, I will say they're not the lowest cars. So it's not like you have to worry all the time, most of your daily driving. You just got to take things at angles. But if you were to put a lowering spring on it, like Greg's talking about, I think you're going to have a real problem going to, frankly, a lot of places.
Yeah,
you know?
potentially. I mean,
you're going to scrape it a lot. So
yeah,
it is still a sports car.
Yeah, be aware of your driveway for sure.
Just be aware that this is a car that's got a very expensive front carbon splitter. That's actually why I haven't really lowered mine. I do see a little profile. I mean, you could see here it's about a half an inch on the front and about an inch on the back that it could be lowered and give it that nice sleek look. And I would do it if it had the lift, but it doesn't have a lift. And my driveway is kind of probably like Greg's. I still scrape it on a lot of cars. Like I can't get a 4RS up here without a lift, without scraping it. So my car is, if I take the car and I come into my driveway and I brake while I'm driving in, it'll actually scrape, just because that slight motion forward will push the suspension down just enough to scrape, which is why I have to slow down fully, just kind of take it really gingerly. Right? You know, Greg and I were just talking about downfalls to the Vanquish. So, you know, Greg's right. I mean, if something goes wrong on this car, it's pretty expensive to replace. And you had a pretty big bill getting the velocity stuff installed and getting the cats removed and all that. I mean, that wasn't cheap.
I mean, you think about it. Everything's hand built on this thing. You talked about the trunk a second ago. It takes 4 days to make that trunk. So you have a fender bender, you tear up the lip on the front of it, you know, something like this. I think these strakes on here are like a $1,500 or $18 a piece option. So replacing those, that front splitter is about $6,000 to do that. You know, if you have to replace the brakes on it, if you've got a high mileage car, somebody went out and tracked it for some reason, right? Those are what, $25,000, $30,000 or something like that to get those. I mean, that's not uncommon for any other carbon ceramic, you know, brake on another comparable car. But it's just, I think it's a really great value as long as you maintain and take care of the car.
So Greg's talking about reliability. Guys, like I said, I have 6,500 miles on my car and I haven't had any issues. Now, I run good fuel through it. I run fuel cleaner every once in a while. I make sure I drive the car at least twice a month. And when I drive it, I let it warm up, right? I don't just get on it and beat on it, right? Usually take it out of the neighborhood in automatic mode, let the engine come up to the full temperature, and then I go into paddle mode and start having some fun. I also drive the car. I make sure that I shift it 3, 4, 5,000 RPMs at least a couple of times, right? Let the carbon blow out of it. I just feel like cars need that. They're designed to be run, okay? I change the oil every single season, even if I didn't do 5,000 miles. Like I just changed the oil on this car last week, right? And it runs on Unicore blood. It's like 0.60 weight. It's very expensive oil. Requires a lot of it. It's a 6 liter, 5.9 liter technically, V12 engine, right? So, but it hasn't had any problems. Like I haven't had any issues. Like I will tell you, it is hand built, so you are going to get some rattles. The common rattle, let me show this, Greg, real quick. The common rattle is with the screen. So the center screen pops up. And yes, it is old Mercedes technology, okay? So it's, you know, the new ones, the DB12, they just came out with the new Vantage. They have the new technology, right? They've refreshed all the entire inside, and that's what everybody's been praising them for. These cars did have trickle-down Mercedes technology. This has a Garmin system in it. So in the end of the day, if you're planning on using your car's GPS, it sucks, but really it has Bluetooth, so use your phone. And if you want to get an Apple CarPlay upgrade for that system, they make it. So it's not that expensive. You can get an Apple CarPlay to work with that screen, and then it's like any modern car. But there are some just general rattles that are gonna come with every hand-built car. And that you can look at it as a negative or you can look at it as a positive, because it's kind of cool. Like there's literally a guy or a team who built this car over several weeks. And so in my particular car, the screen does rattle a little bit, but what you can do is just close it and you just push it down and it'll stay closed, and then that goes away. And then I also have a little bit of a rattle kind of somewhere in the left rear of my car, only with the bass. So when the bass hits really hard, I hear a little rattle. That's really the only like, you just have to remember, like, it's all just little quirks. Like when you go to fill up the gas, right? Like you have to make sure that when you hit the gas filler,
like you don't scrape the car because the gas tank is right here. I can't tell you how many times like you have to like gingerly put it in and then make sure that it, you know, rests, because some of the gas pumps will literally sit on the paint. And just little things like that, like, you know, you're just gonna have to get used to on this particular car. I think it's fun. I think it adds to the character of the ownership experience of it. As far as like, you know, when you take the car out, people love this car. Absolutely love it. I get photos, people ask me about it, they always say beautiful car. I never get hate on this car. I want to say that again. I never get hated driving this car, okay? I have reviewed a lot of cars, guys. I've been in a lot of cars, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, etc. You can absolutely get judged and hated with some of these brands. You pull up in a brand new red Ferrari, you could be the douchebag, okay? I'm telling you. I've experienced it firsthand. People come over to you and be like, oh man, nice car. That must cost a lot of money. What do you do, right? And you get it all day. And if you're not interested in that kind of attention, don't buy those cars because you're going to get it, right? It is look at me money. These cars, they don't come across like that. They're gentlemen grand touring cars. They're British. You're going to get, if anything, James Bond. You're going to get a lot of James Bond comments. Which movie was this in? You know, or is that's Aston Martin, right? Yeah, James Bond, right? Oh, beautiful car, man. That's all you're gonna get. And I really like that, you know, because I'm not a big like flashy new money guy. I've never been like that. I've never really wanted to drive the newest, latest thing. I just bought this car because it, to me, was the sexiest car I ever made. Greg, I think you would agree with me on that. Have you ever been negatively judged with this car?
No, man, everybody loves this car.
Yeah, everybody
Some
loves
people don't
the
even
car.
know what it is. You know, they think it may be just kind of a little sporty little convertible here and there, and then you fire it up and it's a totally different discussion that you're having. What kind of engine is that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah, if you don't like that, you don't got eardrums and you're not a car guy.
People actually think these come with V8s. They never made a Vanquish with a V8, guys. This is their top spec car, right? So it only had the V12. And I will tell you, if you're looking for performance, I would recommend, and now that they've kind of come in parity on price, where you can get a 15, 16 for maybe 10 or 15K more, you get the ZF 8-speed transmission. The 8-speed transmission drops the 0 to 60 from 4.1 down to 3.6. It also increases your top end speed and it increases your fuel economy. So it makes the car quite a bit more capable. It's still never gonna be a track car, but if you can afford to get a 15 or a 16 or Carbon Edition or even an S, if you can afford to get an S, you're my hero. The S came with carbon fiber wheels with the right upgrades. It has the extra paint color. I mean, it's just like this car, but dialed up to the nines, right? I'm looking to buy an S for the collection one day. I think for about 160, 180 grand, somewhere in there. If I could find the right S, that would just be a really cool thing for the collection. So I'll have the 14, I'll have the S, and then maybe even one day I'll be able to find a Volante just to have the full collection, because I really think, this is my honest opinion, guys, I think that these cars are undervalued right now. I really do. In a world that's hybrid and electric, where are you gonna find in 5-10 years, I mean, how many different manufacturers made a fully carbon fiber, naturally aspirated V12?
You know how many of these are made or in production right now?
I think they only made around 2,000 Vanquishes, like less than 2,000. Do you know the number?
It's around there.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
Many.
Yeah, so
And you
that's
think
for the
about-
entire world.
Did you talk about MSRP in this as well?
So MSRP, okay, my MSRP, as I said, and I'm not bragging, guys. I'm just trying to, enlighten you guys, give you the consciousness. So this particular spec was every upgrade. So it was $325,000. I think the absolute top car I've ever seen was $328,000. Okay. Now the reason why is this is a special Q color. This is called Storm Black, so that's an extra $5,400, not a standard color. I know it just looks black, but when you get it out in the sun, it has this beautiful metallic flake. Greg's about to see that, and it really does pop. The cool part about Depreciation is that it's still a $325,000 car. You following me? Like, it still looks like a $325,000 car. It still has the interior of a $325,000 car. It still drives like a $325,000 car, but yet you're buying it for 110 grand. Okay? Like, I haven't had to put any maintenance into the car. I've just changed the oil, and I've kept it on a tender. I've driven it, you know. I've kept it in a climate controlled garage. I made sure that, you know, when I pulled into a sunny car event, right, I put the shield, you know, the sun visors on it just so I don't peel the leather. I've let the windows cracked. I've just done basic common sense stuff. But in the end of the day, like, its car still is a $300,000 car, and yet you don't pay $300,000. You don't have the insurance premium of a $300,000 car. My insurance on this car, even with agreed value of 150 grand, agreed value means if I get the car totaled out, that's what I get back, was only $1,300 a year. That's it. Like, I pay more for my Tesla Model X, which is not even 70 grand. I pay more in insurance for that car. So, like I said, financially, it's not the worst decision. It really isn't. I mean, Greg stole his. I mean, he got this thing for under 110 with like 15,000 miles, and it's in this condition.
15,000 miles on a car is not a lot in the grand scheme of things. And when you look at these cars and you look at where they're built and where they're driven in the UK, they're meant to be driven. And it's wet and it's rainy and these engines have been around for a long time and it's extremely reliable. So taking a car like this, getting the great value, right? You can say depreciation, right? You spend low six figures on this car and you don't feel bad about driving a car that's meant to be driven.
Yep.
It makes you feel good.
Yep. I know this is a long video, guys. We're talking a lot, but I just got a lot of stuff I want to say. So if you're really interested, hopefully this is value adding, okay? I just got to speak a little bit about Aston Martin. First of all, if Aston Martin held its value like a Porsche did, I honestly think these cars would be purchased more often than most of their GT cars. Because if you were to compare the brand new Aston Martin Vanquish to, let's say, a GT3, apples to apples, I think you would rather drive the sex appeal, the twin turbo V8, the interior quality is as modern and new as anything. I really think if you knew that you could buy that car for 200 grand and it was still worth 200 grand in a year or two, a lot of people would choose that vehicle. Because in a lot of ways, having a twin turbo V8 is pretty cool. Having the new design, having the interior, etc. The problem with Aston Martin is that's just not the case. If you buy a Vanquish for 200 grand or one of these for 325, in 3 years, it's worth 40% less, 50% less. Now that's not uncommon with a lot of cars, right? Most luxury cars, Maseratis, etc., they depreciate. Jaguars, you can name a bunch of them, Bentleys, whatever. But certain brands don't do that. Lamborghinis don't really depreciate that much. Ferraris tend to go up in value. Porsches, they don't go down that much. They have the best residual value in the game. And so what really holds people back from buying these cars, I really think, is just the depreciation factor. Because I work hard for my money. If you're watching this video, you work hard for your money too. Greg works hard for his money, right? It's tough right now, right? You got inflation, you got interest rates, you got all these factors that are, preventing you. You got insurance costs, preventing you from buying luxury cars. But if you knew you were going to get your money out of it, I think you would feel a lot better about it. But knowing consciously that you're going to lose $30,000, $40,000 a year driving a car, that's tough to stomach. And that is Aston Martin's biggest problem, because it is not in the quality of the car. It's not. I'm telling you, the new Vanquish is amazing. The new DB12, I've driven it. It's amazing. It's amazing. I've driven the 707 DBX. It's amazing. The engines, the interior, the build quality, the looks, it's all dialed in. They really make a great product. But I'm not going to buy a $300,000 SUV that's going to be worth 150 grand in 3 years. I'm not. I'm not going to light money on fire. And so what I think Aston Martin has got to do, and Lance Stroll and F1, all that's great, but in the end of the day, they've got to get back to building cars one of one, and it's literally a demo car at the dealership, and it's a custom order each time. Because you need to start making mass production cars. You don't need to make 5,000 Vanquishes if there's only a market for 3,000 a year, or 2,000 a year, or whatever it may be, right? So if Adam wants a Vanquish, you have a demo car, you let me demo it, and then you let me spec my car It's custom built. It's got a plaque on it with my name, and obviously you can pop the plaque off, put somebody else's plaque in it if it's resold. But bottom line is it needs to be more exclusive, more individualized. Okay, and this is the key. I don't want to walk into an Aston Martin dealership and see 16 Vantages sitting there discounted. Or I don't want to see a $17.99 a month lease special. These are the things, these are the dumb decisions that forced Aston Martin stock to tank and force the value of their cars and the value of their brand to depreciate and almost put the company out of business. If it wasn't for Lance Stroll coming in and injecting hundreds of millions of dollars and getting Saudi-backed money and you name it, the company would be bankrupt, okay? It's basically an AMG product, right? And I'm not hating on AMG. In the end of the day, the new ones, the twin turbo V8, all that's fantastic. But the issue is the depreciation. So if they can get back to just making bespoke, exclusive, one-of-one cars as people want to buy them, you'll have less cars for resale, you'll have less cars on the marketplace, and you'll have a higher value. Because instead of having to pick from 500 Vantages that are for sale in the world at any one time, you only have 50. Now I will tell you, when you go to look for a Vanquish, there was 32 on the market. 32 in the whole country for sale on AutoTrader. On other Carfax, there was only 24. I hope that Aston changes their practices, gets back to their core of just building one-of-one bespoke hand-built cars. Because I do think, every time I go to CarLock and there's like 6 Vantages there, I'm like, why are these here? I didn't spec this, the owner didn't spec it, and so that car, you have to find a buyer for it, maybe in New York or California or whatever, because he just wants that exact color. But it's just all, they're not gonna buy it because they know they go on the used car prices and they see it's worth 70 grand in 2 years less, right? You gotta be out of your mind. So that's a problem. I'm done with my soapbox there. Hopefully that was helpful.